Hey there, troopers. This is Random Game Channel back with some more advice for new players. And just stuff I wish I knew when I was still new to the game. Don't make the same mistakes I did and learn from mine. So basically what I'm going to do here is just going to read through a bunch of different gameplay tips that I pulled from Discord channel that I'm part of, and a lot of the stuff that just came from my own mind. So we see here we got quite a bit of stuff to go through. So most of this stuff is just going to be, geared towards, new players, but I'm sure there's still a few things here and there that can be useful to even a veteran player. Alright, so let's get to it. So first one reads, bugs focus objectives and troopers. Buildings they just kill if they are in the way. So the best way to protect the ARC Mobile HQ is building mass and trooper density between where the bugs want to walk and the objective. Alright, so reading that, it kind of doesn't make sense, right? So let me try to see what they're saying here, right? So what I think they're trying to say is that the bugs have their own set of objectives. Mainly, it's to go after the ARC and or Mobile HQ, depending on the game mode, right? So for the ARC, it's going to be on Advanced Secure, or AAS, or an ARC mode. Whereas for the Mobile HQ, that's going to be on Horde mode. So those are like what I assume to be the bug's primary objectives, right? So whatever gets in their way, say for instance a trooper or a building, some kind of structure, right? They're going to chomp down on it on their way to the objective. So the other thing that they're saying here is that the best way to protect these key structures I mentioned earlier, which is the ARC and Mobile HQ, is just going to put a bunch of structures in the way of the bugs. So disrupt their pathing, build a bunch of stuff, and shoot and mow them down as they come across you. Kind of like a, what's that mobile game thing called where it's like tower defense games? It's kind of like that, really. Moving on to the next one. Sniper tips. Find a perch close to your objective/base so ammo is in reach. If there is no high ground, use a watchtower but remain aware of the situation. Don't think of the XXX as a sniper rifle. Think of it as a 50 caliber anti-material rifle. Bugs. Prioritize bugs based off the threat they represent to the team and or objective. And then they list their own, priority list. Now keep in mind that this list here that is highlighted in yellow, that this list is always very subjective depending on who you talk to. It could vary between one person and the next. So, don't take a dump on anyone if their views are different than yours, right? Also, it pays to be nice to other people, because people have feelings too, okay? But their priority list reads off as Infernos, Grenadiers, Gunners, and then Tigers and Royal Guards, in order to maximize your effectiveness regardless of weapon. This will help you conserve ammo more effectively as well as a higher XP gain. Alright, so let me kind of explain their priority list here. Then I'll go into mine. So why the Inferno? Well, because this thing can lock down sections of the base very well. And if you have several of them out on the field, they can lock down large portions of the field and or the base, right? So the fireball that it shoots, once it detonates over the intended target area, a big AoE of fire, just pops up on the field, and if you touch it, you burn, and then when you burn, you kind of just die, right? So that's probably why they say Inferno is the top of their list, followed closely by the Grenadier. Alright, so why the Grenadier? This thing's pretty deadly. If you're too close to the blast radius or the blast zone, it's a one-hit kill on you. You're a goner. And sometimes the force of the impact is so great that it flings you quite a distance. Sometimes it'll send you across the map. That's a bug, but hopefully, that doesn't happen to you. Even if you're on the very edge of the blast zone, you're still going to get hit pretty hard. Can potentially take out a good chunk of your life. So that's probably why it's number 2 on their priority list. After that, we have the Gunner. Now, recently, they made an update to the Gunner where it, like, numerically, the Gunner was given a reduced accuracy percentage or whatnot. Basically, they just reduced the accuracy by adjusting some numbers, right? But to compensate for the inaccuracy of this bug, they increased the damage. But in actuality, when you play against the Gunner, this thing hits extremely hard, which makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is that it's gotten more accurate than when it was before. So I don't know what was going on. They don't know what's going on. That's what they were telling us. And they've seen the statistics for the Gunner to trooper fatality, right? More people die against the Gunner now. Because this thing doesn't have a cooldown. Once it sees someone, it just keeps shooting until they expire. So yeah, that's pretty deadly. And then the next thing people should go after in this priority list, right, are Tigers and Royal Guards. Why do we put this so far down the list? Well, because it takes a while for a Tiger and Royal Guard to, walk up to, the trooper, or even walk up to fortification. They're a bit slow, if they don't have any kind of like modifiers on them. And they can be dealt with at a later time compared to these things, which can, just set up shop from a distance away and start hammering, your position. So that's their target priority list. Now, for me, it's kind of flipped around a little bit. For me, here, let's just type it out. Random game channel priority list, right? So, can I change this to a number? I said a number. I said a number. Okay, fine. Should have just done that. I'm a dummy. I don't know things. Alright, so for me, my priority list is actually going to be the Gunner. Why? because from what I mentioned earlier, this thing, even before, they made updates to it, it was pretty deadly. Even though the accuracy was a lot lower, like, once it's sighted you, it won't stop shooting you until you get to cover or you hit it a couple times. Now, with the new updates they made, cover is less effective, and even if you do seek sturdy shelter, you pop your head back up, it's still kind of looking at you. It might turn its head away for a second, but as soon as your head pops up again, it's gonna start shooting at you again. And when it does hit you, with this update, it hits a lot harder. That's why, for me, the gunner is gonna remain number 1 on my list. Alright, so second one, to toss up between the Inferno and the Grenadier. Now, for these two, I count them as the same level 2 priority. You just take them out as targets of opportunity, and if you had to choose one or the other, right? If, for example, an Inferno and a Grenadier did pop up side by side, I'd say just go with the Inferno because the AoE persists for a few seconds. So if you needed to make a decision in that particular situation, go with the Inferno. But both are equally dangerous in their own ways. After that, we'll move over to the Royal Guard. Now, the Royal Guard can one-hit kill a wall. It's just as slow as a tiger, and I think you might even have higher health. So that's why I put the Royal Guard, higher than a tiger. It's more deadly. I mean, both the Tiger and the Royal Guard can one-hit kill a trooper, but the Royal Guard takes third place because I think it can also deal more damage to a structure. Now, after that, we actually just get the Tiger. It's like a smaller baby version of the Royal Guard. It's still pretty deadly. It's still pretty large. But compared to the Royal Guard, it's just easier to deal with. Alright. And then after that, you got your warriors and drones. Easily dealt with. But they're also deadly in their own way because they're usually in mass quantities, which makes sense, right? Because that's like the bulk of the arachnid force. So that's just my target priority list. But this is specifically geared towards, a sniper perspective. Okay. So this one, it sounds like they're trying to like generalize it for like any class, any weapon. Which, for the most part, yeah, it makes sense. But for me, I always look at it through the lens of the sniper. I'll put that here. As viewed in the eyes of the sniper. Okay. And I had a little link here. Oh, there you go. It pops up. Hopefully you can see that on the recording. So I have this video linked here just as like a reminder to myself to mention it. So if you want like a sniper gameplay tips and you want to learn a little bit more about it, you can always go to this video on YouTube, search up Sniper Gameplay Tips V2. You should be able to find it. Okay, moving down the list. You can change your currently assigned objective by selecting it on the attack map. Doing this will give the other troopers in your squad the option to swap to the same objective with a single button press. You can double-click the current mutators and other information from the scoreboard. Alright, so I do have a bit of an overlap on the attack map, but they're also talking about some really good information here, right? So I guess I should ask, how often do you use the attack map? Do you use it a lot, a little, or somewhere in between? And that's okay if you don't. When I started playing, I hardly used it. But over time, I've figured out that the attack map actually gives you quite a bit of information. Now, I'll go over into more of those details down here in this section, but just know for now that you can use it to select different objectives and missions, things like that, and so can your squad mates. And by opening the attack map, you can also learn about the different mutators that are in the mission. So if you forgot about what's there and what each mutator does, it'll give you a bit of information on that. Alright. Next one. Play a class that meets your priorities. Okay. So before I get too deep into this, I just want to mention that some people are like really hardcore into play into what the team needs, even though you don't like playing that particular class. I'm kind of like 50-50 on that, right? So yes, do play to what the team needs, but if you're forcing yourself to go into a role you don't like, then are you really gonna have fun with it? Right? Ask yourself that question. Up to you to decide, but I always say, play with what is gonna give you the most fun for the time that you're investing in the game. Alright? And the reason why I'm 50-50 on this is that if you're like the last 5 troopers coming into a match that's already in progress, that's 10 minutes in, you don't have the loadout locker anymore, and for example, nobody is playing as a medic, you might want to consider going in as a medic. Or if there's no engineers and no one's gonna switch out at that point, right? Maybe you want to go play as the engineer. But again, it's all up to you. Play as a class that is gonna, be fun for you. Okay. And then now let's just move on to the rest of this list and figure out what it is that they're talking about. Alright, so they say here, if you want to protect or support your fellow troopers, play medic, guardian, or engineer. If you want to kill some bugs, just go play demo, ranger, or sniper. If you play the engineer, make it your priority to build the forward operating base in the field. Clear the corpses, and supply ammo pre-slam and repairing structures during slam. So what they're saying right here pre-slam, post-slam. That's just before the arc slam happens, and then after the arc slam happens. So it's important to clear the corpses also because, if they stack up too high, the bugs are going to climb over and then they're going to breach the base that way, up and over the wall. Kind of like how they did it in, the first movie, Whiskey Outpost. Eventually the bug corpses got too high and they just walked right over it. And also, repairing structures. For some reason, not a whole bunch of people are repairing structures. They're just letting things fall down. And even the same thing for the arc. It's like, you gotta repair. Everybody has the capability to repair. You can't just be fighting all the time. And that's how a lot of people lose the game. Right now, there's a trend of people losing the game when it gets to the arc slam because they're not repairing the structures and repairing the arc. So that's one thing people need to kind of just break that bad habit and repair stuff. So channel that for whoever is old enough to watch this, that all that skit where there's that guy that always says, repair man. Be like that guy. Repair stuff. Okay? Next one. If you play medic, make it your priority to heal and revive others. Save the last charge of your drone for yourself, but keep using it if you have more. Alright, so what they're saying here is that, kind of like what I mentioned earlier in this one, is that you shouldn't be fighting all the time. You need to look around and practice your environmental awareness skills, which I kind of mentioned in the previous video for advice for new players. So, as the example I always use, if you're going to cross a road that has a lot of vehicle traffic, right? Cars going left and right. You're not going to cross that road without looking left and right first, are you? You wouldn't. That's not safe. So that's what I mean by environmental awareness. You just gotta look around and make sure that, first thing, you're safe. Second thing, that your teammates are safe and that they are doing well and healthy. If someone's down, go pick them up. If someone's hurt, you go and heal them. Remember, this is a cooperative game. This ain't no Call of Duty. It doesn't matter who gets the most kills. What matters is you keep your troopers alive, and they'll keep you alive. Alright. Next one. If you play Guardian, don't camp in a safe spot and snipe with your saw. The damage it does on distance is negligible. Fortify yourself at the front, which is between the bugs and your team, and undo your siege mode and move as you hear the bombardier sound, which I go into more detail in my own notes down here. So what they're trying to say for this one is that as a Guardian, first thing, this section here, don't use the saw as you would a sniper rifle. I've seen it and I tried it myself. It sucks. It's so bad at sniping because that's not what the weapon was designed to do. It's a close to medium range, fully automatic weapon that can serve as crowd control. It can break enemy lines if you sweep it left and right, back and forward. So in this game, which I'll mention down later here, is this thing called like damage fall off. Every weapon has it. Some are more affected by it than others, but basically what that means is that let's take, again, the saw. If you are trying to snipe a gunner, say like, 500 meters away, uh, you ain't gonna be doing too much damage, and you might actually have to compensate for bullet drop. So you can spend like half a mag, and you probably wouldn't kill it. And you're wasting your time. Um, wasting your time and your ammo. Now, if you were to use a Marita Hawkeye or the sniper rifle, it has a better chance of like killing the thing in a less amount of time with as little bullets as possible compared to something like the saw. Right? You wouldn't use the SMG to snipe a bug, would ya? Doesn't make sense. Alright. And moving on to the second part here, what do they mean by, fortifying yourself at the front and then undoing your siege mode when you hear the bombardier come in? Well, let's talk about that. Alright, so as a Guardian, like if you've played an MMORPG before, uh, you can think of it as the tank. And what your purpose is on the battlefield is to attract enemy attention and draw it to yourself. And the Guardian can do that in a few different ways. They can place the little sentry turret that they have. They can equip their own pheromone perk that makes them a more appetizing target. And then, for them to survive all this, they have some of the highest health pool in the game for the troopers. They also get perks that will give them like a mini shield, kind of like Master Chief's energy shield from Halo. And they also can equip another perk where they can reduce damage for melee and ranged attacks. So they can be pretty tanky. Okay. But what about this part here? Undo your siege mode. Alright, this is very important that you keep this in mind, because for the average Guardian, they're gonna just kind of camp in the siege mode and they're really gonna leave. They get like too focused on shooting stuff, and most times they just die to the most random stuff around them. And it's really frustrating to be in that situation because you don't know what's going on, you don't know what killed you. And that's where the environmental awareness thing comes in. So each bug has a very distinct sound when they're about to attack you or do something to you. For the bombardier, this is like the pill bug, the roly-poly bug. As it's coming in, it's gonna do this like really loud screeching sound. Like if you ever watched a World War II movie where it's like aerial battle, dogfighting, and you hear the plane do that dive and it does that loud screeching sound. It goes whirr, something like that, right? That's the sound it makes, and that's when it's just gonna land near someone. Now, with the bombardiers, one hit kills anybody that's like within a meter of it. Maybe 2 meters, but definitely within a meter. And most times they seem to like to go after guardians for some reason that I can't say here. But I can tell you that once the guardian has been spotted, they will go after them. And then most times the guardians won't move out of the way for whatever reason. Maybe they're too focused on fighting, or they just don't hear the bombardier. Then they blow up and then they die. So that's what they're trying to say. Don't, you know, grow roots when you're in siege mode. Remember the environmental awareness. It's for every trooper to kind of keep in mind. Next section is, if you play sniper, go for priority targets. If there are a lot of spawns, you should only shoot grenadiers, infernos, or gunners, and the priorities for those depend on the situation of the battle. This is very important to remember. This last little bit here, this last little piece says that, depends on the situation of the battle. Like, for any tactician, people will always say, well, plan always goes to doo-doo as soon as you make contact with the enemy. And the same goes for that priority list that I talked about earlier. So you just gotta be adaptive to the changing battlefield that you find yourself in. Okay? That's what they're saying here. Next one is, if you play Ranger, you're supposed to scan and distract targets as soon as you got the Trauma Auto Injector, which is a perk, and use your ability to stay in the swarm alive and retreat to safety ASAP once the injector triggers. So, in my honest opinion here, I know it's cliche to say, I strongly believe that Ranger is one of the hardest classes to play because it's the one where you need to be extremely mobile. So they're good at getting into a mess and getting out of a mess. And they're kind of like the medic where they get a second chance at life. If something causes them to go to lethal damage, meaning that they go down, they actually won't. Only if you have the Trauma Auto Injector equipped. That'll grant them temporary invincibility for maybe just a few seconds or whatever, right? And it heals them back up to full over time. So they're saying is, you go into a crowd of bugs, you let them hit you a little bit, you scan, and then you use your jump jets to dance around the bugs, kind of lead them in a circle. And once your Trauma Auto Injector triggers, you get out of there and retreat to safety. So that's kind of like your average ranger. That's what they'll be doing. I'm terrible as a ranger, so I don't really play it too often, but I see my friend mezzying around play this all the time. And if you want to see the expert play ranger, check out their channel. So just type in mezzying around into YouTube, Starship Troopers Extermination. I'm fairly confident that you'll find their channel. And I'll try to remember to include a link to their channel so you can check them out. Check out the Ranger gameplay. Like, they're like god tier Ranger. And I always look up to Mezzy because his Ranger gameplay is just so damn good. So yeah, a lot of the gameplay tips that I produce, it's just me watching the stuff that he does when I'm watching him stream and stuff like that. So yeah, big kudos to mezzying around. You are the Ranger. Next one. Demo is self-explanatory. Shoot Q's, throw grenade, jump in, and press E. XP. No, I don't think that's like a really good explanation. And what do they mean by that? It's not to, talk crap about this person. It's not like that at all. What I'm trying to say is that if you're trying to explain this to, a new player, could, be fluffed out a little bit more, right? So let me get some water. Well, that's not enough. So I gotta get a cough drop because my throat is getting dry. At the point where I've talked too much. And it's getting dry. I have this weird, like, chronic condition. I have no idea what the hell's going on. And I'm pretty sure if I ask my doctor, they'll be like, "It's nothing. Pay me $500 for your visit." American healthcare industry. Okay. Alright. Tangent aside, we're talking about the demo. Alright, so let's translate the first part. Shoot Q's. Basically, they're saying here is that use your class ability, Barrage. For the keyboard, default key is going to be Q. Now, for the controllers, I'm not 100% sure what that is. Maybe it's the left bumper. So definitely, if you don't know what it is, go into your game settings, look up controller settings, and take a look. I don't know. I don't really use the controller too much. So hopefully you find out what it is. But for the demo, I believe you get like 2 or 3 charges to do that. So shoot them off whenever you can. There's no sense in holding back. If there's bugs, use it, right? And then you even have another thing to throw at them, which is the grenade that you equip from your loadout. Now, what you might not know is that the grenade that you equip is the grenades that you shoot out in the barrage. So, for example, if you love playing with fire, equip the napalm grenade. And if you love watching big walls of fire, use your barrage ability and shoot out 3 napalm grenades, and you'll see the world burn. But the most popular one that demos use, demolishers, they will be using the lure grenade because it can attract bugs to wherever the grenades detonate, and when it detonates, it creates like this green hologram of a trooper saluting with a bunch of noise. It's just like the best grenade that the demolisher can use. And then what do they mean by jump in, press E, XP? Pretty cryptic, right? So what they mean here is that they're talking about the Watkins trigger. So when you go to lethal and you're downed, if you have it equipped, do the Watkins trigger by pressing E. It's like the default action button. For the controller, I believe it's gonna be X if it's Xbox, and like square if you're on the PlayStation. It's like the leftmost button on the right side. And then once you trigger it to explode, hopefully you take a bunch of bugs out with you. Okay. And then when you respawn, you'll see a lot of XP pop up on your screen. Okay. Oof. getting tired of talking so much to go through. My throat hurts. Alright, next one is Armory unlocks weapon tiers. Alright, so Armory unlocks, what they're saying here is that each weapon has its own like XP track, and once you max it out, which I believe is currently, as of this video recording, it's gonna be level 15. But I think they said in the Q&As that there's gonna be level 16 when version 1.5 hits. And that's for being able to use oh no, I'm sorry. That's the class level. Forget what I said. So basically, let's just rewind. Basically, every weapon has its own XP track, and once you max it out, whatever it is, right, you'll be able to use it for other classes. So, for example, sometimes you might see a ranger using a flamethrower, which, you know, naturally it comes from the engineer class, which I believe is at level 1 unlock. So when the flamethrower is leveled up all the way, anybody at level 1 can use it for a different class. So that's kind of like how armory unlocks work. You can use it for, you can do it for primary and secondary weapons. Okay. So yeah, there you go. I'm not sure what they mean by weapon tiers, but definitely I'm sure that's what they're talking about from armory unlocks. Also, when you prestige, you know, kind of like how it works for Call of Duty, you reset all your stuff, all your ranks, on your unlockables. However, the weapon XP remains the same. It won't reset. You know, once you have it there, it's there for good. But when you prestige, you get an additional loadout slot that you can then use for, you know, different loadouts you want to make. So, for example, if you want to have 2 different loadouts for like a medic, you can do that. Okay. Alright, so we're moving into the section that I have all my notes here for the stuff I, you know, suggest. Alright. So we're going to briefly talk about the TAC map again. So let's just take a look at this in the frame of looking at it through Advanced and Secure Game Mode, or AAS. So in AAS, when you have the TAC map open, you'll notice that there's this like, you know, yellow highlighted area on the map. That indicates the next area that you should travel to. And if you happen to have a an objective selected, it'll also show you a new icon that you can follow in your HUD when you're outside the TAC map. Okay. So kind of coming back to the yellow highlighted area though, once you see the yellow highlight area pop up, you don't have to wait for the next objective to you know, go off of cooldown. You can start hanging out there right away. That yellow area indicates like the general location you need to be in for the next objective. But just keep in mind that sometimes when the next objective starts, there might be an ambush or there'll be a horde. So you gotta be careful because those things happen from time to time. So it's up to you if you want to head out early or if you want to, stay back a little bit. And also, for any mission that you select, what did I say here? Oh yeah, if you're in like a squad of like other people, you got like 4 people in your squad, you select a mission, objective, they will be given a pop-up window, and they'll say accept this mission or decline it. Now, if they have their own mission that they selected for themselves, um, if they choose to not take any action on it, then nothing will change on their end. Now, they can accept it to join your mission and then their HUD will update to the new mission, or they can just simply decline it and you'll just be doing your mission solo. So that's what all that's about. Moving on to the next one. When playing in a game mode with ARC, don't deposit the last value gas right away unless you are in an infinite horde. If you're in an infinite horde, just plug that sucker right in, because at that point, I'm pretty sure the base is being hammered really hard. So when this happens, right, and you got the last can, just go on voice comms, or type in the chat that you're ready to deposit the last gas can. You want to give the team a moment to return to the base, and then after maybe 30 seconds to a minute goes by, you can deposit it. Alright, so activating the ARC should cause the bugs to despawn, thus giving the team a chance to recover and build and repair the base. Okay. So, next one. Fire warriors will explode in a fireball if killed by an explosion. So just be careful if you're playing with explosives or even playing as a demolisher, man. That fire can hurt you pretty good. But sometimes it's just unavoidable. Just be careful and keep an eye out and don't run into the fire. Fire warriors and infernos are immune to all fire-based damage. So for those pyromaniacs out there, you can't really fight fire with fire. Not in this sense here. Just not going to work. Moving on to the next one. The hard shell mutator. This one always trips up people for some reason, but let me tell you on this here. The only way to get rid of bug corpses is to destroy them with your melee attack. Using explosives on them will not work. The hard shell mutator is basically mutator where it says that explosives won't get rid of bug corpses. You literally just need to do your melee attack on them to get rid of them. But sometimes I just see people trying to use the explosives on them and they just sit there thinking, what's going on, right? Well, that's what's going on. So, just take a look at the mutators and see, what they do. You can open the attack map or press the letter Z on the keyboard, get the scoreboard open. It should show you what they are and what they do. Alright, so this one, it's a little bit of a repeat here. It's just like, damage fall off. I guess I already talked a lot about it, so we can like skip this one. Let's see. Oh yeah, so I did talk about the Guardian being very vulnerable when they deploy their siege mode. But let me give you a little more information on that now that I'm on this section down here in my own notes. So oftentimes it'll land right on top of your shield and you'll rarely have time to move out before it detonates, or another trigger happy trooper shoots it, thus causing it to explode on top of you. And sometimes they'll land literally on top of your head, which you won't be able to see. So it's really important that you keep an ear out for that auditory cue. Remember that loud screeching noise I did? Keep an ear out for that. Um, because it's a good cue to let you know that they're about to blow up. Next one. Move together and fight together as a team. Being a lone wolf generally gets you killed, and it just wastes the team's reinforcement tickets. Remember, once they're all used up, it's game over. So try not to be a lone wolf in this game. That's just not going to end up very well for anybody. Voice communication. Try not to disrupt team communication by yelling, making annoying noises such as high-pitched whistling, or playing music in the voice communication systems. Alright, so I get it. Sometimes you're just, really excited about the game, right? And you're having a good time, you're shouting, it was cool. But when you're doing it a little too much, chances are someone's going to probably mute you, okay? So, just keep it in mind, kind of keep yourself in check a little bit, kind of put yourself in, other people's shoes, like, being too loud can hurt other people's ears. You just need to be kind of considerate, right? But definitely, really, you gotta avoid playing music and making, crazy sounds in the voice comms. I've played in games where people were playing their music super loud and people were whistling. Sometimes people were just making like really weird baby noises. Yeah, it's just terrible. People will mute you, and sometimes they'll even report you for just being a dum-dum like that. And then when all that happens, when you do get muted and you're trying to call out for help, like you're down and you're trying to, say, someone revive me. Well, good luck. Because people have muted you and they're not going to be able to hear you. Thus, it negatively, right here, negatively impacts team coordination. So don't be a dum-dum, okay? Next one. As an engineer, you have access to building spotlights. You can build up to 4 for your own personal or reserves, from your class ability. And in the base build zone, you actually can build up to 4 as a team, 4 other spotlights. And no other class seems to have access to it. It's only the engineer. So, get these blueprints out, build them, and then turn them on. Don't forget, you need to actually manually turn them on. They don't do it by themselves automatically, which I've seen some people do. It's really good when it's like a low light setting or when it's on pitch black. It will make a difference when you have these in the field, because like when the game gets dark, it gets dark. Alright? Just want to emphasize that there. Moving on to the next one. Structures can't be repaired if a living, breathing bug occupies the blueprint area. Take, for example, if a warrior is inside the blueprint area of a bunker, you can't repair it, you can't build it. You need to kill the bug that's inside the blueprint area first, before you can repair the structure. Now, if you're trying to build a structure and there's bug corpses already in the way of it, it's just not going to work. It's going to be red, blueprint, and you can't build it. So in that case, get rid of the corpses first and then you can build in that area. Next one. Ice warriors take more damage from weapons that deal fire damage. I actually didn't know this. I saw this randomly pop up in the Discord. That's actually pretty cool, and it's good to know. Alright, next one. If you are lost in Boreas, follow the red flares. My ear is itchy and it must be scratched. Okay. Alright, so in Glorious, you might notice that there's red flares. Usually, this indicates that it's an entrance and or exit of a tunnel. And sometimes they'll place them like near a cliff near an extract zone. So use these to help you navigate the battlefield. My dumb-dumbness always gets lost on Boreas, and I'm always having Kaboom and Freddy remind me. If you get lost, find the red flares and it'll get you up and outside of the tunnel system on Boreas. It will eventually lead you to the open air. Okay? So follow the red flares like the T-Rex did in Jurassic Park. Okay? Moving on to the next one. The Vayu and ore canisters can stun a bug in one hit. Keep in mind, it won't do too much damage, but useful to do this, or you know about it, if you're in a really bad situation and you have no choice but to hit the thing in the face with a can. And finally, thank you for her sticking with me through this one. There was actually a lot to talk about. But this last one here, we have a graphic, a really janky graphic that I made. So it's basically saying aim high. So what do I mean by aim high? You know, if you're in a crowded environment and you know, it's not a lot of maneuver room and there's just a lot of troopers in one space and there's a lot of bugs. If you're worried about friendly fire, literally aim high. Aim for the tops of the bug, like in this picture right here where this arrow is, or hit the top pincer leg thingies. Now, we have to realize that excuse me, that you're not going to be dealing a whole ton of damage because these things are armored right here in the vertical mandible. Okay, so you're not going to be dealing a whole ton of damage, but you're still going to be dealing some kind of damage. And when you aim high, you reduce your chances of doing friendly fire. Alright. And if you're using like a shotgun, the Emancipator, Hawkeye, or the sniper rifle, they can still do instant stun for any part of the body that you land a shot on. So it's something to keep in mind. It's a really great tactic to use, and you're probably going to need to make use of it when you play on Hive Hunt, especially if you're going to be playing it with the new updates to it when we move into 1.5, because like they're saying in the Q&A, they're increasing the player size to 16. So if you played on Hive Hunt before, you'll know that the tunnels are extremely tiny, and there's a lot of friendly fire happening, even with 4 players. So imagine when you squeeze 16 troopers down a hole like that. You probably want to start considering this tactic where you aim high, okay? Wow. Well, that's all I got for this one, troopers. I know this one was pretty long. I know you're probably tired of listening to my dumb voice, but hey, you know, maybe it helps you out. And maybe it'll help, you know, veteran players too that missed a, you know, couple things, you know, when they're playing. Yeah. Again, thank you for your time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know, you know, things that I missed, and let me know what you liked about this video, and you know, share this channel with your friends and family. I'm a small channel that's still trying to grow, and any support that you give my way will be greatly appreciated. Until next time, troopers, you know what to do. Smash those bugs good and keep on fighting. Well, that's all I got. See you, troopers, in the field, and I'll catch you next time.